live from One SEO. It's taking control.
All right, welcome back everybody to episode 58 of Taking Control, and thank you very much to Landon for that interesting opening. Toys R Us taken too soon. Anyways, I'm Anthony Kane, an SEO strategist here at One SEO, and I'm joined by none other than Tony Beato, who is one of our senior UX designers here at One SEO. Tony, thank you so much for coming on to episode the Big 5-8. And no, you're going to be the perfect guest for today's episode because we're really talking about sort of e-commerce, how people buy products has changed so rapidly in the last 10 years. Some of the big do's and don'ts, some of the big players. We're going to get into it a little bit later in the episode. But Tony, before we jump into a quick housekeeping item, as you know and everybody else knows, One SEO is growing pretty rapidly. We're continuously hiring. We pretty much have rolling applications here, so please feel free to check us out at oneseo.com/careers if you think that would be something that you would be interested in. We're hiring on both the digital marketing and the tech side, so a lot of great positions. Tony works on the web development team. Like I said, he handles a lot of the UX front-end design. Tony, what are one of your favorite things about working at One SEO? I usually like to ask everybody.
So, like, besides the ping pong table and like the pizza, which every millennial is going to answer that, brass tacks, I like helping the small businesses that come in, the people that come to us, and we're going to be talking about e-commerce later, but we get a lot of clients that come in where they're trying to sell a product and they're trying to make their business work, and I like to contribute to that process of actually helping their business grow, letting them know this is what you're doing right, this is what you're doing wrong, this is what we can do to make that business better. So at the end of the day, that's why I like coming into work. I like helping those guys out. I like seeing their success, and I like seeing that success grow month by month.
Sure.
So end of the day, that's what I like. And like I said, the ping pong tables, the pizza.
That's a great answer. That's probably the best answer.
We're hiring. So
yeah, that's probably the best answer we had so far. But you're right. It is a really rewarding experience, and the bulk of our business is that small to medium sized business where we really get to know the business, the owner, and everything like that. So it is a great feeling. But like we mentioned, oneseo.com/careers. Check us out. You will likely see something that fits your background. We have things that really fit people that like to get into the analytics and numbers, and we have people that really like to get into sort of the design aspect. So it's a lot of opportunity. So feel free to check us out there. Before Tony and I jump into this week's episode all about e-commerce, we're actually going to pass it over to one of our senior web developers, someone else on Tony's team, Allison Alexandroff, for this week's whiteboard session on speed and page speed. So Allison, please take it away.
Thanks, Anthony. Hey guys, it's Allison. Today we're going to be talking about page speed and why it's important for you guys. So why is it important? First of all, you want to make sure your site is down at least by 3 seconds or lower. Users will bounce if it's anything higher than 3 seconds by 57%. Most users are now savvy, especially having a phone now, having tablets, they're savvy, they know better. They're going to expect you to have a low page speed. If you don't, again, they're going to leave. Page speed is also important for your conversions, for your tracking. It's going to affect your SEO. It's physically kill your SEO. For 3 seconds, you're going to expect at least 50% bounce rate. You're going to expect 22% less page views, as well as your conversions. Anything higher than 5 seconds is going to destroy your site. You're looking at 105% bounce rate. Looking at 35% less views and 38% less conversions. So how can we fix this? Here at One SEO, we use 2 different tools. We use Pingdom and we use Page Speed Insight. Today I'm going to walk you through what the stuff in Page Speed Insight actually does and what's it mean, and how can you, with your IT team or with us, make your site better. So some of the keywords you'll see that pop up are improve your server response time. What does that actually mean? Well, maybe your server isn't strong enough. Maybe you need to upgrade your server. Maybe you need to add something to it. Best way to do it is call your hosting support and see what they can do for you. What we can do for you, or what your IT team can do for you, quick solution, install a CDN. A CDN is going to allow everything to be dispersed to multiple servers and only be called in when it needs to. This is going to help reduce that speed. Leverage your browser caching. Caching is a key thing for your website. A browser is going to remember what you previously saw on your site. And you can tell it what you want it to remember as well. You could add some, you can either have your IT team add some code within an htaccess file, which is on your server side, or you can install a plugin, or you can host a WP engine, which already has caching built in. This is already going to improve it. You're going to see your increases from E's all the way up to B's, A's instantly. Remove render blocking JavaScript. So JavaScript is a key component to building your website. It's going to allow you to do really cool, fun effects and be able to pull information dynamically. If it's in your header of your site, it could cause it to not load properly. Best way to do it is to either defer it, to have it load at the very end after everything else on your page is loaded, or have it call in the bottom, in the footer. Optimize CSS delivery. This is a little iffy. This can be cleaned up pretty easily, sometimes it can't. But what is it? It's when you have too much happening in your CSS file. A lot of times you'll see a developer, especially if it moves multiple hands, you might have developers just throwing things and not really cleaning up after themselves. This you want to make sure that it's minimized, that it is uniform, that it's clean code. And that's going to allow you then to have better delivery of your CSS. Avoid landing page redirects. You're not going to see this often, especially with fluid responsiveness being a thing nowadays. You're only going to see this if you have a mobile site and a desktop site, and you have calls going back and forth to each other. The browser's not going to know instantly what you need to call, so it's going to slow that down. By completely redoing your website and making it responsive so that it can appear on any device with little to no effort, you're going to see an A result for that. Enable compression. This kind of ties back into the render blocking of it. You want to make sure that things are compressed. So if you have large files, your HTML is too large, your JavaScript is too large, your CSS is too large, you can either have your IT team add some code into htaccess, gzip, that will allow for everything to be compressed nicely, or you can have it prepackaged ahead of time to allow it to be faster and compressed. Optimize images. For those who like to jump into their own websites and like to add their own images, it's not always the best idea. Images can kill your site. It is the biggest thing that we see here on SEO is images from clients adding in that are too big and then cause the page speed to be dropped. Best solution is to either have your marketing team resize that image for you, or there's a plugin called Smush that you actually can add in. It's a free plugin. It allows you to have 50 images a day, and you can have your images smushed each day then. Minify resources. Kind of talking about that compression again. You can add something into your htaccess file to allow for further minification of your resources. This can be done by your marketing team, or it can be done by your IT staff. These small little changes are going to help, just including everything above, make it much faster. And last but not least, prioritize your visible content. What do I mean by visible content? That is anything above the fold. So when you land on a website and you see your header, you see a banner, and then you see some buttons, that is what's above your fold. Sometimes a site, depending on how it's built, can actually load things below that first. So now your top is not loading as quickly, and you might see your banner not loading properly, or you might see images not coming in completely. That's because there's other things loading ahead of time. Best way to do it is to restructure your code so that you prioritize what's important. You want your heading to come in first, and you want everything after to come after. So as you scroll down your page, you should start seeing things start loading one at a time. Hi, welcome. I'm dying inside, it's okay. I'm trying to figure out how I want to end this.
Talking about page speed. I could stand up here all day and tell you about numbers that would matter, but what really needs to matter is your end users having a great experience. If things are taking too long to load, if things are taking too long to get to the point, then it's not a good experience. And we live in an experiential world because nothing really matters except the experience you have when you buy something, when you get involved with something. You're damn right I did.
Hi, welcome to this week's Technologically Speaking. My name is Zachary Stern. I'm one of the techs here at One SEO Technologies. Today we'll be talking about e-commerce and why e-commerce companies are targeted more than smaller companies when it comes to credit card breaches as well as data breaching. They get targeted more just because e-commerce companies tend to have older software, since it's very expensive to upgrade to the most secure and newest softwares. Unfortunately, that leaves your credit card information or your personal information vulnerable. For example, one of these companies that just got hit was Target. Target uses older software for their point of sale systems just because of how many computers they would have to upgrade to newer software. Unfortunately, they ended up getting a part of an attack for a breach of credit card information. So when you're going out shopping and looking at all these places, think about the fact that the bigger companies are the ones that get pointed at. So maybe you just take out some cash at an ATM and just throw it at the register instead of throwing your card at them. We'll see you next week on Technologically Speaking.
Hey family, BJ Berge here with Rachel Lawler. We're back with the Digital Buzz. Feels good to be back in the swing of things. Thanks for holding down the fort in my absence. With that being said,
You're welcome.
First up on the list is?
Facebook dating.
Wow. Facebook dating. So we have things like Tinder and Bumble and, the third-party offshoots like
FarmersOnly.com.
Whatever you fancy, people. But Facebook isn't trying to compete with them. Instead, what they're doing is not creating a standalone app, but something that's already part of the Facebook network, based on who you're connected to, interests, likes, all that wonderful stuff. And they're putting limits on this stuff.
Absolutely. Facebook is taking an extra step for age regulations, no fake persons regulations and things like that. They're really taking a step above all of the catfishing and fun things that happen out there. I think this is great for Facebook. They're not only creating another app, but they're forming it into their platform, all part of Facebook's journey to become more personal.
Absolutely. And the big key part here is it's not like the other apps where you can just go swipe happy every which way. There actually is limits on how many people you can engage with. So if it's only 3 farmers, it's only 3 farmers. They don't want it to be abused. They want it to be genuine and really,
The three farmers that I love.
3 farmers that she loves. Which leads us to our next topic today. Bing is making some additions to the search engine result pages, so the SERPs. Namely, they're adding hotels, home service prices, and coupons.
So, not new to the search engine, I guess, land. Google already does the hotel booking on the search pages and everything. Coupons, that's something new though. Does Google do coupons or am I
So
just
they do
shopping
stuff
wrong?
through their paid advertising that allows you to see promotions and stuff of that nature. It's a different approach. What I do think you are seeing that with somebody like Bing is they're playing catch up or trying to upsert, which is
Every
Google
time.
right now.
Every time.
So maybe too late here for Bing. Will they see benefits of it? Yeah, it opens the door for those people performing well in Google and just want to get another piece of that pie with Bing.
Absolutely.
Guys, third and final one on the list today, Google's actually adding a new schema markup. So schema markup is data that allows us to wrap coding and pieces of a website so that it can actually appear in Google search result pages. Specifically, this is for data sets. So data sets basically it's just spreadsheets, right? Like Excel, Google spreadsheets. But they just used to be for scientific research and stuff, and that's the only thing Google allowed to go through from accredited institutions and whatnot. But now anybody can use data sets, mark up information, so polls, surveys, studies. A good example would be like nutrition facts.
Oh.
Right? Crushed it.
Yeah.
So nutrition facts, if I need to get the the macros for something, instead of searching for it and going through it, it has potential to show up right in the search engine result page.
And I think that's going to be more valuable than anybody thinks. I think of using Excel and data sets for things like internal operations, but think of how many times you look up nutrition facts, price grids, anything like that. So I think this is going to be really valuable. Google, snaps for Google for taking this step, and we'll be ready to see how it works out.
Guys, it's 2018, everybody's all about convenience and ease of use. You need to look into schema markup, even if it's just data sets or something far beyond that. You should be marking up as much as you can. With that, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
Alrighty, and we're back here at the desk. BJ, welcome back. It's always great to have you back on the Digital Buzz with Rachel. So, Tony, we are here to kind of round out this week's episode on e-commerce. And I think really for those that are just tuning in, and for anybody really, just to kind of break down e-commerce. Okay, so it's a website where it typically has some sort of a shopping cart functionality. You can go and you can buy products on that site. The reason why we make that distinction is because we work with a lot of companies that do home service, and their typical conversion is a contact form or a phone call. We're really focusing on where you've got products, you want to sell them, you got them on your website, people can buy them right there on your website. That's the form of e-commerce that we're talking about. Obviously, the easiest example we can always give is just Amazon. That's your standard typical e-commerce website. So the reason why we wanted to talk a lot about e-commerce today is because there is distinctions to be made about how you go about marketing your website, how you go about setting up the layout, how you go about kind of setting up the SEO for your website, if you have product to sell and if you are using sort of the e-commerce. So I guess, Tony, if you just want to walk us through some of the basic things that maybe you might include on an e-commerce website or that you would look to want to include on an e-commerce website that maybe you typically wouldn't include on another website.
Absolutely. So basically when we're talking about e-commerce sites, they pretty much all good e-commerce sites. And if we're talking about the top 5, like you're talking about your Amazons, eBays, Walmarts, Etsy's, Target, even Nordstrom if you want to get into that. They pretty much follow the same pattern more or less. You have like your main homepage, which every site has a homepage. It's the site you land on.
Right.
You get there. You want to make sure that's your first impression, right? Like you want to make sure that you're above the fold. You're featuring that content that if somebody's going on your site and they're at like they're at the top of the sales funnel. I don't know if I want these shoes or not. I don't know if I really want to buy this or not. I'm money tight. You want to make sure that the selling process starts from minute 1. You want to make sure that as soon as they land on that, bam, this is my product. This is how easy it is for you to buy that product. If it's going to take me like 3, 4, 5 clicks to actually get to the point where I'm buying that product, I'm going to bounce. I'm going to get off of there. I want to, my mind is made up and I'm not going to buy that product. And you just lost a lead. You lost conversion. So number 1, you want to make sure that as soon as you land on your homepage on your e-commerce site, whether you're a big shop like Amazon or you're selling homemade soaps, you want to make sure that your products are there, they're easy to buy, and you even have the ability maybe to have a one-click purchase. Yeah. So if your information is already saved on there, and this is something that Amazon implemented a couple of years ago where it's huge now. It's as big on e-commerce as I would say the like button is on social media. It's that one-click purchase. If you see something like an electric razor or new shoes, new pants, you can click buy now, instantly ship to your...
It's dangerous.
It's a dangerous thing, but I mean, it's working. I mean, like it's playing on people's impulses. People are impulsive when they go online, and you really, if your goal is to get people to buy your product, you just got to make it easier for them. You can't make them think too much. So
yeah, you talked about layout and the homepage. Yeah. And how much of a believer are you in that sort of familiar feel where people sort of expect to see the logo on the top left, they expect to see the shopping cart in the top right? Does that play a factor? Is that something that you should really stick with? Or?
Sure. So the reason we see a lot of similarities in these designs, in our industry, we call them patterns. A very common one we see is a Z pattern. You got your logo on the top right, and then go over. You got your shopping cart, and then you go down. You got your quick links. Forms a Z formation. The reason we see that is because we know it works. We know people read from left to right traditionally on Western websites. We know that that's traditionally how they feel comfortable buying their products. And then when you get to the product listing page, when you go beyond that homepage and you're actually looking at maybe a category, you're looking at a brand or you're looking at a category of a certain product, you see, a list, you have your products on the left side, and then you see a description coming out over there. So that's that pattern people are used to, they're familiar with. It's not wrong to kind of be, cutting edge and trying to make your design your own. Yeah. It's not bad to be unique. Everybody's a special snowflake, but you got to follow some patterns at the end of the day to make people comfortable and buy your product. A big thing about e-commerce is all about trust. You want to make sure whenever you're dealing with people spending money, you have to introduce that trust factor. If your website's too avant-garde or you're trying these different things, you're trying to be edgy in that regard, chances are a lot of people aren't going to really convert as well as if it's something they're familiar with. So rule of thumb, you want to utilize those patterns that people are familiar with, especially on Amazon, your eBays, and all those other big guys. Yeah,
you mentioned trust, so we talk about it. We've probably had 3 or 4 episodes on it, just on the whole HTTPS. Making sure, obviously, if you're taking payment information on your website, your site should be secure. Your site should be secure no matter what. But that's obviously something people look for when they are in the purchase sort of mindset. You also mentioned just trust in general. I think that's a huge importance. It's a huge factor. Especially since it's not like they're just giving you a call or filling out a contact form. You're trying to get them to buy something on your website. The other piece, I kind of wanted to bring up is we know, it feels like 10 years ago people spent a lot of their money when they went to buy something, it was on a desktop. But I think nowadays people are a lot more comfortable buying something on their phone. I know I've bought things on the phone, my phone before, where it didn't feel like that before. Yeah. I guess talk about the importance of mobile and how people, I guess, are just now more comfortable to make purchases.
Absolutely. I mean, you got like the rise of apps like Venmo. You got Apple Pay, Google Pay. It's so much easier to pay on your phone now. You literally go in and you scan what you want to buy, and it's done. I mean, I was just looking up. I think recently 10% of all of Starbucks' sales were done with their online app. Which before, I never even heard this. I never even knew Starbucks had an app other than, something just, advertise what their product was. But now you can actually order your food on that app. 10% of their sales, however much they make. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, mobile first has always been huge. It's been huge since, the dawning of, real user experience design.
Right.
So that's definitely something we recommend too. Make sure your site is mobile first, mobile friendly. Because people nowadays, you're out shopping, you're doing whatever, you're in the park, you're looking at your phone. If you're in the mood to buy a pair of shoes or something, you're going to be on your phone. You got to make sure your website's optimized for that. So
yeah, we know that as far as Google searches are concerned, mobile has surpassed desktop a few years ago, 2016 at this point. So if your website hasn't pivoted to mostly mobile traffic, it likely will fairly soon, just because that's the direction everything's going. People are on the phones, they're on the go, and that doesn't change for e-commerce. So one more feature I wanted to touch on, and then we'll get into some of the bigger players in the space and what they're doing.
Right.
I guess the little things like showing related products or the way Amazon you mentioned kind of shows me what I was looking at or what I might have saved. I guess how important is personalization to the e-commerce experience? Because it's crazy what websites can do nowadays as far as knowing what you might be into, knowing what you purchased 3 months ago, and then it might be breaking now, and you need this to replace it. Like you bought a filter, and 3 months later I see. I bought a Brita, and 3 months later I see filters, or whatever it might be. What kind of role does personalization come into with e-commerce?
Right. So I mean that's huge, right? Like that's that AI factor coming in, where which site's going to win out, and really understanding who your user is, what they want, and, what they're actually going to come back to the site and buy later. I think the websites that really capitalize on investing on AI and understanding, user behavior and actually automatically, coming up with a curated list of products based on your past history. Those are the sites that are going to win. And the sites that are winning right now are definitely Amazon. I mean, like you have it. So if you're on Amazon, and if I'm buying, a couple things, I'm buying movies, I'm buying shoes, whatever, I'm going to see that list in the bottom of the screen saying, people that bought this also bought this. Right. But it's getting to the point now where Amazon can actually use that information and curate a list of items that, you might be interested in. And I mean, it even comes into the fact of, remarketing ads, where if I'm scrolling on my Instagram, I'm looking at, Dollar Shave Club stuff, I'm looking at whiskey stuff. It's, that's my market, because that's what these companies know that I'm interested in. So that's what's going to, come into play, where, to answer your question, you have these companies that are capitalizing on that, who their users are, and then, putting that, right in their face to upsell them, getting them to buy stuff that they might not even realize that's what they were coming to the store in the first place to buy. So
yeah, you talked about remarketing. That's so huge right now, because it's just like the one-click purchase where it plays on people's emotions. If you're between companies or you're looking at Dollar Shave Club, and next thing you know, you get an ad for, hey, try the first month for free, or here's the first 3 months free. Like you're instantly more, inclined to sign up or to purchase if you're getting free shipping now, or I'm getting $15 off that pair of shoes I was looking at. That just kind of really plays on people's emotions, and it's pretty crazy the amount of information that some of these guys have. We look at we told this story a long time ago on back on Marketing Matters with Target, and how based on shopping behavior of somebody, they had sent sort of like a congratulations with a book of coupons to this teenage girl who was pregnant, and that's how her dad found out that she was pregnant, and he was livid. He went to Target and he yelled at them, because they knew that she was pregnant before her dad even knew, and it was just based on her shopping behaviors. And it's not that she bought a crib or that she bought a stroller or she bought diapers. It's little things. Like she may have bought a bag, a little bit of a bigger bag that can hold baby supplies. And she may have started buying more vitamins or, a better pillow or a back brace. It's these little things that these companies are taking advantage of, these little data points that don't make sense when you look at them individually, but collectively, hey, this person might be having a baby,
Absolutely.
So it's just this really crazy thing. That was years ago. So you have to kind of think of what they're doing now and the information that Amazon kind of has. So as far as the big players right now, who are some of the when you think e-commerce, who do you think of?
Yeah, so the biggest players in e-com right now, we call them the big five. In the US, it's really Amazon, eBay, Walmart, Etsy, and Target. Those are the people that make up the biggest market share of the e-commerce business online. Amazon alone has 54.1% of the market share online. One website alone, and it's believable. I mean, because they have a great, you're talking about a company that, and it's been said before, but you're talking about a company that literally, they sold books in the 90s.
Yep.
But they capitalized on going all in on what their primary e-commerce engine was. And now they can afford to do so much more, and they can afford to really push the envelope and, focus on the user. At the end of the day, it's all about focusing on the user. We were talking about the AI part and, upselling people based on what their product history is. when you sell things that people actually need and they want, that's what's going to make you money. And I mean, whether you're a small business coming in here trying to ask us, what am I doing wrong with my website, or you're a big, one of the big five. End of the day, it's about the user. It's not about you. It's not about your brand. It's about, who's buying your product. Do you even have people buying your product? So
definitely. And then as we close out, Tony, just looking ahead a little bit, 2019 and beyond, what are some trends that you kind of see? I know, we've seen some AR, some augmented reality with like Home Depot and picturing patio furniture on your patio just by looking through the lens of your phone. What are some trends that maybe you think are going to take off? Are things going to stay pretty consistent or?
So, you bring up the AR and the augmented reality. It's hard to say, really. Because, you got companies like Home Depot and everybody I feel like I've had this conversation with a lot of people, even outside of the marketing sphere. Like, how cool would it be if you held up your cell phone and you're able to actually see, this is the color of my wall without actually having to go to Home Depot and getting those color swatches. So that may be a thing that may, do well in the future. Who knows, really? If it is, that's something the company should definitely jump on soon, because that's something that people are actually, going to need. I personally think that it's the companies that really capitalize on bringing what the good aspects of the brick and mortar model were and combining that with what the good aspects of e-commerce are that are going to win in the end. You have a company like Nordstrom that just opened up a 3,000 square feet brick and mortar store with no inventory. The only thing they do there is they custom tailor suits, and they provide some sort of customer service, and you're actually able to use that as like a locker. So if you order shoes from Nordstrom, you're able to go to that Nordstrom brick and mortar store and pick them up. So you have a company like Nordstrom, but the vast majority of their revenue is online, but they're also leveraging that brick and mortar aspect of it to kind of give people that face-to-face human interaction that it's just missing on e-commerce. So we can talk about the future being like augmented reality, but if that doesn't win out, I definitely think more realistically, if you leverage the best of both worlds, then you're going to have a very successful, business in general, e-commerce, and wose. So
one of the best things to come out of these office walls was when we coined something click and mortar, which is sort of the merging of the two. But so that's a great example, and we can talk all day about this, because I can get into how the mall has changed, and whether we think that's going to still exist. But I completely agree with you on sort of the merging of the two, because I think that there's a lot to be had on both fronts. And we know that digital is going to continue to be on the rise, but it's just sort of capitalizing on both without losing one or the other. But Tony, this has been great. It's been super insightful. Thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks
Mom,
so much.
I'm here. I'm out taking control. What's going on?
Here's Tony. But this has been episode 58 of Taking Control. Tony, we'll have to have you on before 100. This has been fun. But everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you guys next Thursday for episode 59. Bye.